1 second. It says we're live.
All right, welcome everyone. Today is April 11th. It's 9:30 a.m. This is the Community Engagement Committee. Mr. Pridnoff, would you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Bussey, Ms. Cheney,
Here.
Mr. Fisher,
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
All right, so thank you everyone. Mr. Herf is out and our chief is not here, nor is our captain or our village solicitor, which we occasionally have here, my understanding, as advisors. We had our chair abandon her post. So the first order of business is going to be my appointment of a new chair to this committee. I want to thank Ms. Cheney as well as our former chair, Ms. Snyder. I meant that the other way around. I wanted to thank Ms. Snyder for her service as well as our former chair, Ms. Cheney, for her service over the past 2 years. Has it been now?
I got it in December
In
or like
December?
November,
All right.
whenever Matt left.
And did you have it for the year before that, or
I
the
think so,
past?
yes.
Okay, so thank you both. This committee, as I think the whole community will recognize, is in a completely different place than it was before you two coming in and taking over the reins of it. I have asked as one of the few powers that the mayor has in the Village of Gulf Manor is the creation of committees and the chairs. I brought up a copy of that where it says that I'm allowed to appoint, I'm allowed to appoint people to the committees and to pick the chairs and everything. And that's one of the few powers in which I can go unquestioned on. I have been impressed with Bryant's commitment to the community. He's been engaged in the finest way of residents. He's seen issues that have troubled residents. I'm referring to the Langdon Farm piece, and he's just taken it on his own to go out to garner the resources that he needed to get that addressed to the residents. I've seen him engaged with this whole question about what are we going to do with the parks moving forward and everything. And I am very pleased that when I approached him and asked him if he'd be interested in chairing this committee, that after some consideration and thought and some asking other people questions about what he was getting into, he came back and said yes, that he would be that he'd be more than happy to do that. So thank you very much for your service. I'm going to ask you to take the chair here as I leave and step out to the audience.
Physical chair.
Take this physical chair here to move on with the setting of the agenda and the rest of the meeting here. So thank you. Here.
Congratulations.
I'm excited. I didn't know it was you.
Would you come, please take the
The helm.
pound the gavel?
Do you have We'll get you a new one with the committee chair, or is it not? I'm not sure.
Oh, does that show that?
I don't know if we
No,
do.
I think they just say
It just
like,
says member. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we can see about doing that from now on. We'll see.
All right, so never done this before. Thank you for the appointment, and I really look forward to. It's been a fun year so far, and I've been on the committee for about a year, and I look forward to serving in this role and working with each one of you, and Mel as well. With you. So we are at the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
a second.
And it doesn't look like there's anyone registered to address the committee today. Is that true?
As far as I know.
It goes all in favor. And we say.
Oh, darn. Yeah. All right. All in favor of
Aye.
adopting the motion or the
Aye.
agenda?
Okay. That's passed. There's no one registered to address the committee. We'll move on to minutes.
There's minutes to be approved from our last meeting on 3/21. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? There's very long, it goes 5 pages.
We'll need a motion
Share a
to approve.
motion to approve them, the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And as chair, you can also make motions,
Okay,
so
cool.
you know.
Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, on to new business, which seeing none. Is that true? All right, we can go to old business. Ashley, would you talk about the strategic plan, or who has been?
So the strategic plan was not adopted in the last council meeting. So we are at a standstill currently. There was some conversations with Hamilton County, and they are concerned by this fact, and it has been told to our administration that we in fact are at risk of losing some funding. So this is of the utmost importance that this gets figured out as soon as possible.
Was the vote 3-3?
No.
No.
2 to 3.
It couldn't be because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
3-2.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do the vote again the next council meeting and I'll be there.
Or we could fix it up, like that's what we wanted. Is that it should be fixed up. Basically, my concern, they had a
Yeah.
concern that I was in the wrong committee, but that wasn't my concern. My concern is that this is exactly what we've been talking about. This piece of document they gave us is exactly what we told them a year ago when we hired them to go ahead and put together a plan for us. We did not get a plan from them. We got exactly the same talking points as we gave them. So if we're trying to get something done, we need to have a concrete plan. If we put together a plan that says this is what we're trying to accomplish within the year, this is where we're gonna head, this is where we're gonna go, we're gonna put people in charge, we're gonna get stuff on the ground, more of a concrete form of paper, I think everybody would agree to pass it. I definitely will pass it. What I feel is like we're just going around and talk. We've been talking the whole year for all these points. We know what the projects are. We wanted them to come back with us with more concrete ideas, with more concrete facts. We hired them to do a study for us, and we're paying them to do this. And what we get back is the same talking points that we gave them. So we didn't gain anything by it. We want to move forward, then we have to go ahead and have more concrete plan, not just the overall idea, a more concrete plan. If we put that forth to council, I would pass it. I would vote for it.
In our last meeting, they had said that once we got the main goals down, that then they were able to use their additional resources to flesh out the rest of that in the appropriate committees that we deem each individual task should be in. But they want to make sure that we have that the higher level view, those main bold points, are still our focus, and we all agreed that they were, and that all of them.
Correct. We gave them those talking points.
Yeah, but we paid them to do a focus study with council.
Correct. And they
And we
didn't bring
did it.
anything
And we
back.
did it,
We did
and
it.
that's what came out of
It
it.
And
might
that
have
was
been
the same
before
thing
your
we did.
time. No, it's here. I have it.
Correct.
Yes. This is the study. This is what we came up with when we all met for 2 hours and hashed it all
Twice.
out. And then this is what we finalized, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Sorry.
No, we have it. And now the next step that they said was for us to come up with what priorities we have. And the priorities are definitely North Weehee and Stover.
And then they will work on that, and we will flesh out the plan, but they didn't, apparently, they had heard that on the whole, our concern was that too many words were going to be adopted, and then we would feel constrained by them. So they just wanted us to adopt those higher level views or higher level goals, and then those things would be fleshed out with them and their assistants. But they are hesitant to move forward on that point. And in fact, additionally, we have funding that is at risk because we can't do this simple task of saying, we agree to these 6 things that we all identified as important goals. I don't think we're gonna have wildly different opinions.
We all agree to this. Everybody on council knows that we have to get these 6 6.
Right, so why can't we say, yes, these 6 things are what we wanna work on, and then we get to work on them?
Yeah.
All I wanna see is a more of a concrete document of straight out, this is what we're starting, A, B, and C, let's go.
North Wheatley is what we're starting. That was in the plan, right?
Mm.
That's where we have the funding right now. Right now, we're not getting the funding to tear those buildings down because we voted against it.
It doesn't say anything that we're starting in North Wheaton, just.
It is,
No.
it falls under one of
Because that-
those
Okay,
goals.
That's my point, I want a more concrete document that
That's
says
what-
exactly where we're heading.
But he said, but they want us to identify these goals, which we've identified, and then they also discussed that this is a living, breathing document. As opportunities arise, say, grants, and we get them, then perhaps our focus has to change, and then our priority list will change as we take advantage of those opportunities. And so while currently we have these things that are top level lists, we don't want to adopt and say, hey, public, 100%, this is what we're working on first. If, say, we get $1 million grant to build a pool, then clearly we're going to say, okay, we're going to put Stover, third currently because we can build a pool right now, as a random example.
And community engagement has been working on this since last year. And I have the minutes from March and April, and I believe May. And we started in March with the opportunity to purchase the bakery building.
Mhm.
Yes. And then when we finally got the people to sell the building, we went for funding, right?
Mhm.
Right. So we started with that area because it was available to us. And then we had the Bean property we were working on. And then we got the Bean property finally. So North Weehee we own those 2 buildings now. We can tear those down, and that's what the funding's for. We have been working on that.
So let me ask this.
Yes.
If would you just articulate it written down?
Yes,
Okay,
it's in here.
and so
Everything's
just,
in the minutes.
just from a outside perspective, 'cause I haven't heard exactly why everything was denied. So from your perspective, if you guys council were to re-vote on this and it'd be 3-3, if I
Our
understand this
point is not, our
correctly,
point is not to get the council 3-3, our point is to get the council 6-0.
see,
That's our
understood,
goal.
that's fair.
Our goal is always to get the full council
Everybody
to agree.
I hear that.
That's
I
our
respect
point. We're
that.
not here to make fights in council. We're here to make everybody happy. That's the real ultimate goal of a council, is that the whole village is happy with what we do,
I like
not
that
just some.
answer.
So if we could, that was my next point. But first of all, we're not arguing. We're not arguing. We both agree, and everybody
Okay.
in council agrees that we
Okay.
have to get this done. We've been talking about it for the past year.
Okay.
We've been working on it for the past year. Everybody agrees that. What my point was that if we just continue, this to me is just big talk. I want action, and we need to put action into words, bring that to council, then I'm comfortable moving. Because if I would just go ahead and say, okay, yeah, we like this document. A year ago, we all spoke about it. It's all in the minutes. We spoke about every last point of this. We all agreed to do this.
Okay.
Right? We're not here, I'm not here saying I don't want to do this. What I'm saying is I want more concrete action on paper. Then we should vote it in, and I think
Well,
everybody will agree with it.
But-
The thing is, we can't work with our consultants anymore until we get this
And
done.
that is what my question
So
was.
we
for
could
you.
go ahead and put together a attached document to this with saying concrete what we want administration to do. Us as council, we want administration A, B, C, D. Over the next 6 months, accomplish this for us.
But that is the goal setting for the administrator and his personal goals. This
Uh-huh.
document is a wider vision of what we,
And that's what I'm saying.
and it's
As
not just
council-
goals
as
for the
council,
administration.
We should add on what the goals should be for our administration. I don't think that's so kind of hard to do.
With the consultant, is part of the package, is it putting this plan together, like this next step, is that
yes,
included?
so
in
there
our-
is, not the consultant that did the focus for this strategic plan, but we have other consultants that through funding with Hamilton County can help us flesh out specifically housing strategies and
Mr.
We didn't
Fisher
even get
would-
to hear the housing report because of all the bickering at the meeting.
Mr. Fisher, would you find that
They gave us the full report.
No, they didn't.
no, there was
There's
more.
Yeah, there was
So why
more.
don't they continue?
because we were over time and had a whole agenda to get to.
Mhm.
Mr. Fisher, would you find value in working with that partner to flesh out the action steps for the housing component?
I think we should work on it with Mr. Hurd. It's in our committee. Unless the mayor changes it. We need the mayor to make a decision. Who you want working on this?
I have mentioned that I wanted the chairs of the committees to work on figuring out what is relevant to each committee to be working on. One of the pieces that was not addressed here was that all of council was giving examples of what the final product looks like from these guys. And part of, what's really unfair to them is that when you look at the finished product, what it looks like, it's, color, glossy kind of report, all right? And what's included in there is a resolution from the mayor and council saying, this is what our strategic plan is for the next 5, 10, 15 years, all right? That was how it was all framed
What
when
this
we
is.
first started this, was what's our plan for the next 15 years? Not what's our plan for the next 6 months, what's our plan for the next year, and then we'll adjust it and come up with what our vision is for the next 15 years. When you look at these products that have been produced by other communities, it says specific things like what our community engagement is going to look like over the next 5, 10 years. What are our goals long-term wise for community engagement? What are our goals long-term wise in terms of, yes, business development, which is predominantly what's in here. What are our goals long-term wise in terms of community development outside of business development? What are our goals in terms of, are there any kinds of plans for assisting elderly people, elderly homeowners in the community with being able to stay in place as opposed to move away when they get, when managing their property becomes difficult. There's a lot of things that communities do to make that more successful for individuals. I had asked the community, our council, given these examples that we had, take a look at what other communities have done in terms of the breadth of things that are included in our 15-year plan, all right, our 15-year vision. And unfortunately, nobody came back with even an acknowledgement that they looked at those, all right? Not a single council member came back on that. That's been my frustration is I've looked at those, I've circled them, highlighted what I like, what I think should be included in this plan. And my expectation, as has been reported in more than one meeting, is that the other council members do the same thing. Just freaking look at an example of what other communities have done, highlight what you like, and let's see if we're in agreement in incorporating that into our plan. What I see in the current plan that we have is a couple ideas that are very well laid out in terms of what that plan would look like. But when you look at what other communities have done, I'm embarrassed that we're only looking at 2 things in our strategic plan. There's some other things listed there, but when you compare them to the business development stuff, they're not fleshed out at all. All right, fleshed out meaning what's the vision over 15 years of what these things should be. And I don't think that's a lot of work because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Other communities have done this, and it's a matter of just literally, what do you like? Let's cut and paste it into this. It's not a thing that I think would even take longer than necessarily an hour for people individually to take the time to do on council. That's what I think the ideal would be. Ultimately, I don't vote on this unless you guys literally cannot decide on it, all right? But that's what I've been advocating for.
Okay.
Is for folks to look at that, think of it more as this is the vision that we have. And I really don't like the idea of going to our residents and saying, our vision is the next couple of years and we'll just continue to work on it. That's not a strategic plan in any sense that I've ever understood what a strategic plan is.
Okay, so how did you see these other strategic plans? Are they online?
Yeah, the consultants brought them to us. Everybody had a copy of them. And then I had asked in our
At the last meeting?
December meeting for folks before we went to break, for everyone to take a look at it. Administration emailed it out to everybody. So everybody has, if you go and look at you have to go back probably to your December stuff. If you need it resent, I'm sure Mr. Hurth can resend it to you.
I can probably dig it up.
Yeah,
So-
it's PDFs of both the, there's 2 documents there. And do you remember what community? it was?
Harrison, I think, was one,
Harrison.
and Whitewater Township, I believe,
Yeah.
was the other one.
Okay.
I believe those are the 2.
Yeah. One of the things that I personally was considering is that I've never considered community development to be strictly business development. So whenever I see a community development plan that's just focused on business development, I get concerned. And when you look at other ones, there's, some of the goals are specifically business development. Some of them are very specifically people. All right, it's like some of the categories are just like people. What are we doing for our people besides the promise of trickle down from our business development? Being able to do future things because of the increased revenue. So that's specifically what I was looking at and highlighting from other plans, was things that were specific to community development that had to do with that people piece.
So if I'm understanding the flow of our conversation correctly, this is for the minutes as well. Essentially, where we're at is that we need to have concrete feedback from council, or concrete feedback from this committee is probably the more appropriate. I'm not even saying that 100% because I don't know that has been fleshed out. But whatever body is responsible for the strategic plan, the members of that body need to go through the 2 examples that were emailed. We can go back over those, and I can send those. I can try and find them, dig them up, and send them out. And then by the next meeting, that needs to be looked at, and feedback needs to be given. I think it's where it's unclear still is where does that responsibility lie?
I think that responsibility should lie with the full council as far as fleshing out the strategic plan.
I think everyone agrees with that.
That was their concern. Danny and Roger were very upset that the presentation that came back from the state and from our review, this was not aimed at full council, it was aimed at community engagement. That's what got those 2 upset.
Well, this was the second time that they came, and they only came because Roger went to them, and so then they contacted Ron, and Ron's like, well, you can come to community engagement.
First time we've heard of it.
So do we want to?
It was never that the strategic plan was all in this committee. It was just that Roger went to them and they said, okay, we will come. When can we come? And because this is now the second time that we were given this plan, the first time was in council, full council. And so that's why they came at this point.
Do we want to recommend from community engagement to full council that full council give their feedback by the next council meeting in May?
Next week.
Well,
The council head should meet.
okay, you're saying
before
committee
next
heads should
meeting.
meet?
The committee head should meet before next meeting. And
There's
we
a complication with that. We had asked, pardon the interruption. At our previous council meeting, I had asked our solicitor for clarification. A number of people asked for clarification about what constitutes, the number of people that can get together for, without violating sunshine laws as far as talking about something and scheming about something. And what came back was, which I was highly skeptical of, but it's our solicitor's recommendation, was that anytime I ask more than one person to work on something, I am by default creating a committee. My understanding is I can create a committee when I say I create a committee. But our solicitor came back and said, because I had asked the heads to get together and work on this, or 2 people to talk about it, at this point, actually, we didn't have one of the heads. So what I was looking at was, by the time we got feedback on this, what I was looking at is I'm just asking 2 people to work on something, take it to executive and to finance, and say, this is what we're looking at, so that by the next council meeting, we could say, here's our cut and paste stuff, all right? I felt like, again, that wouldn't necessarily even be more than an hour of work outside of council. I was told by the solicitor that because I asked 2 people to do that, I'm creating a committee. So we're going with that, which means that they still can, but we would need to schedule it. I believe there needs to be more than 24 hours.
It needs to be a quorum.
Yeah.
It needs to be 24 hours and it's a public meeting. We would have to
Right.
schedule it in
Right.
this room or
Right, so
whatever.
those two people could come and sit in here, or we could pick another, doesn't necessarily need to be this location, but it would need to be a publicized location of where they're gonna sit and do their hour of kind of hashing this out.
So it looks like we have two possible decisions. One is that we recommend to full council that full council needs to give their input and we have to set a deadline for that. Alternatively, we could recommend a public meeting, schedule a public meeting between the committee heads, and the committee heads can determine what goes into what committee. That would be a public meeting, that would be a committee, as I understood.
But at this point, why are we discussing what goes into what committee? Aren't we just all going to be adding bullet points to the strategic plan?
I
Stuff
think
we want
that's
to
the
see
best
in it?
way to do it, because as I said, you can literally look at an example document and cut and paste it. When I was bringing up the committee heads, it was just, let's get this done,
Mhm.
and no one's doing it. So I'm publicly saying, you two people, you three people specifically do this. That's, but yeah, I would prefer all the, I think the community would
Prefer the whole council.
prefer that every single council member bring their bullet points in, their cut and pasted stuff to include in this. We can say this is a council document.
So
This is our issue.
But we also did do that with the consultants. We came with our bullet heads
This
and
is it.
put them on a
Right.
huge.
And we didn't answer it. We did not answer this.
Right.
So I think just, again, from my chair, I'm gonna say two things. One is that I think Mr. Hirth would typically at this point say that these kinds of discussions belong in committee. I think everybody is expressing in this committee that may be inappropriate in this case, and therefore would recommend it to go to the full council. I would be
I would-
sensitive to his perspective, and that's why I'm raising it, but it sounds like that's.
I would say that it needs to be a public special meeting between all council members, just like we
So
had
having
our
a
working
special
groups.
meeting. Okay. So to have I think that Mr. Hirth was planning on making another meeting. I apologize, I don't have the date
I'd be
in front of
happy
me.
to call another meeting that works with the administration and the council members.
I think Mr. Hirth was looking for another meeting on the 24th, April 24th, for the housing presentation that Ms. Bloom was supposed to have done. So certainly I would think that's an appropriate time to after that presentation is finished, to then hash out those details, because more information is probably better. So April 24th, Liz Bloom, who is working with our consultant, is Mr. Hirth. Again, I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn, but Mr. Hirth had said to me that he would like to schedule a meeting on the 24th of April to allow her to give that presentation. Again, I'm not exactly sure why that didn't happen. I don't remember there being discussion around that at the meeting, but it certainly was not discussed. If that would happen on April 24th, she could come in, give her presentation, and then once she's done, then council could give their feedback on what they had been working on from the 17th, the next council, until 24th. It gives a full week. I'm just throwing that out as a possibility. That might be something that everybody can agree on. Does that sound?
When's the next council meeting?
The next council meeting is
It's
the
the
17th. That's Monday.
And then the following Monday is what we're talking about, having an additional meeting then on the 24th.
Right, which Mr. Hirth was planning on doing anyway for this housing presentation, which again, I don't think anyone was 100% clear that that was also
I
part
didn't
of
know,
it.
I didn't know that
I
that was
didn't know
supposed to be
either.
happening.
I thought it was just Greg Dale and Liz spoke, so I was like, okay, I
For
assume that's
the
what
for
was
the
going on.
clarity of people watching, can you give some details on what this housing?
So there are two aspects to the strategic plan. The first aspect of the strategic plan is, again, so far bullet points, but there is a desire from council, my understanding is to have a little bit of a clearer perspective of what that actually looks like, whatever the procedure is on that. But that's what people want to see, is what's the direction the community is moving in. And I think that there are 6 categories where that's true. The other piece of this is the housing report, which is just what's going on in Gulf Manor. A lot of this is based on census data for 2020, which no one has seen and has not been presented to anybody, and is pretty critical to understand our demographics. And like part of the strategic plan can't fully be fleshed out until we have all that information.
And part of it is also the resident interviews that she performed.
Right, resident interviews, I think there's a big. there's
And
a
that's
big-
what community survey is under here, under this communication bit, by the way. So you
Right, that makes, okay, so we
Yeah.
can check our
can
box
check that
there.
off, please.
Yeah, so, but again, so that would be a big piece of it, and I think she mentioned that there was also a like the actual housing, not repertoire, but like the housing
Stock.
thank you.
Mhm.
The housing stock in Gulf Manor, what is the housing stock? How many buildings do we have? How many units do we have? How many people do we have living in those units? Like all of the data, which is essentially census driven. We've been waiting to hear from that. So
Mm-hmm.
that is part one, I think, of that meeting. And then part two is this kind of coming together, melding of the minds, so to speak, in full council, outside of a committee where everyone kind of is interested in getting that done. Is that fair, what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. So from my seat, I would say someone would need to recommend to full council to give feedback to schedule a meeting by the 24th, for April 24th, and to give feedback on the 24th of essentially, strategic plan, bullet points that everyone wants to see, using those other two examples as a springboard for discussion, and that should all be reviewed and submitted before that council meeting so that the results can kind of be discussed.
Yeah.
So,
That's, if I may, that's one of the things I would specifically request is that rather than, surprising everybody on the 24th with what your great ideas are, send them to me. You're allowed to do that. Send them to the administration as well. Send them to the both of us, all right? Because we can then begin the process of starting to say, oh, these people are saying the same thing. This can be, one section or one, thing. That would be very helpful. And also give me feedback on how you would like this to roll out with regard to each person sharing it. What's on the top of my mind right now as a way of doing this is literally just like we do roll call. I'd go around, give each person 3 to 5 minutes to say, probably more like 3 minutes, to say what their bullet points are, what they'd like to see included in it. Just let every council member have an opportunity to say that. Not as in, again, 3 minutes, not a time for you to give your manifesto on why it should be those 3, but these are my 3,
So the motion would be recommending to full council to schedule a full council meeting April 24th and give feedback by April 21st. That's that previous Friday, using other examples as a springboard for discussion. Is that a fair motion?
I'm not sure I can make that date yet, but yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Me too.
tentatively,
24th is bad for me.
okay, so maybe we can look at a different date. I'm only using the 24th because I believe Mr. Hirth was planning on scheduling Ms. Bloom to come in on that date. So we can move on that. We're not stuck on that date. But if there's, maybe that would be something to already start to look at your schedules and give a couple of, if there's a Monday, I think generally speaking, we have stuck to that. If there's a Monday before the next council, which would be the 1st, so May 1st would be the next possibility. Or obviously if there's another date besides that works for you.
As long as it works for all the council.
Right, I mean, that's
Right.
right, that would be the goal. The goal is to try and take this out of committee and take this out of,
Right.
smaller groups where people feel like they're being excluded or not heard, and bring it into full council where everyone can flesh out the ideas and, make sure that we've done some homework beforehand. So I'm saying tentatively the 24th, but if we can get, or if you guys have other recommendations now, or we can,
I don't at the moment. I need
the
to
24th
look.
definitely would not. Or
I don't know yet.
you don't know. Okay, so we're gonna pencil in the 24th, and I'm gonna, obviously this is going in minutes. I think the full council can probably figure out a date by then. At least we can recommend to on the 17th, we should have an idea. And maybe if individual council members can reach out to those who are not here, I can certainly reach out to some and try and figure out a specific date that works for everybody. Obviously, we have to coordinate with Mr. Hirth and Ms. Bloom if that's all part of if that's going to be all part of the same meeting. So, okay. So the recommendation at this point is to full councils to schedule full council meeting by on April 24th or another date or a better date. and give feedback by that previous Friday, using other examples as springboard for discussion. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We kicked off the strategic plan with Greg Dale on April 12th, 2021. Their plan. Mhm. And it's what we came up with. I have everything. Whoops.
Okay, yeah, we call it all in favor.
Zero. Vote.
Okay. Okay, the village app, I don't have anything on that. Mr. Hurth did not communicate anything with me on that. I'm sorry, the chair would have to recognize you. I apologize.
Sure.
Yeah, if I may, thank you. So I spoke with Mr. Hurth last night, and he mentioned that the questions that we had, I had quite a few, some other people had questions as well, that those had been received. So we do have the answers to those questions. It's a matter of presenting those answers to people that have asked them to see if there's anything else and then moving forward.
Okay.
I make a motion to authorize Mr. Hurd to go ahead with the app. We've already paid $10,000 on it. And we still owe $10,000. We need this app as soon as possible. We've got events coming up. One in June.
I think we do need to have, I think the mayor expressed some concerns about it, about what type of app it was. Like, is it really the this type of app that we should be paying that much money for? I think that's what those answers were.
Yeah, I think that basically it comes down to one of my largest sensitivities is do taxpayers get the most for their money? Or do people take advantage of municipalities and charge a lot for something that really you could get for $3,000, literally? So that's where the questions were
Yeah,
around.
we've
I'm not
already
saying
worked
a
on it.
lot of the answers that we were able to get in that meeting satisfied my concerns. Some of the technology ones about that really got to the point of whether this was worth it $2,000 or $20,000 or not, we're still up in the air. It sounded like from my conversation with Mr. Hurth about the app, the piece was very brief last night, but there was no red flags that he raised to me about the answers to those questions. So I left our conversation last night thinking that probably we got the answers that I would be happy with, but I have not seen those answers yet. So I would think that I would like to see those answers before any more money is put down, but.
Eric, do you have access to those answers?
That's not been communicated to me, no.
And that was about a month ago that you asked those questions.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. And my understanding is that Mr. Hurth is probably, if not later today, tomorrow. But I mean, you can't keep Mr. Hurth from, he's gonna do his job even when he's, when he's on vacation. All right, so, my understanding is I'll be getting those probably within the next 24, at the longest, the next 48 hours, so certainly by our next council meeting, if we wanted an active council to show the solidarity of, yes, let's do this.
So the motion by Ms. Cheney was to move forward with the app. I would assume that's a recommendation to council to move forward with the app.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll second that pending, I guess, the
Yeah,
mayor's.
but that will take council before we pass it, we should have those answers. He didn't mention he's gonna send it out to everyone.
Yeah, but by then we will have
Right,
had them,
let's-
so then we
let's
can
move it to
just.
council. Good idea.
Okay. Is there an all in favor vote?
Aye.
So for the minutes, I have a motion by Ms. Cheney to move forward with the app to recommend to council. To move forward with the app, second by Ms. Snyder. In terms of discussion, Mr. Fisher would like to see the answers, the answers about the app to full council.
Sent out to full council.
Sent out, okay, to full council, and all voted in favor of that. Is that, okay.
Does anybody know if we give the go-ahead at council, when would the app be up and running?
I don't think we know that.
I'm thinking it would be pretty quickly, actually based upon what my understanding technology-wise, of what they were presenting. I know that they were just giving mock-ups of what it would look like, but what we're dealing with is a template kind of thing that can be reproduced pretty quickly. So I would expect that it would be certainly less than 30 days. That would be my expectation.
Yeah, I believe they already have, what we want on our app. So it shouldn't take long, I wouldn't think. And we can make changes to it as we go. It's not concrete.
In the app,
Uh-huh.
app itself, yeah.
Yeah.
And they can structure it differently too. Like
Yes.
Ron we have access here to make small changes, but they can make structural changes as
Right.
well, it seems.
Yeah, he can put the input in, right. Hey, to make some changes, right. And if we need to add stuff, we can add it, or take out stuff.
Okay, so
I
then.
think it'd be really good.
Everyone's, had a chance to speak on that. Next would be the Parks Committee update. The park, we were able to meet, it was last Thursday. It was a smaller group this time, just because we did not know about Chief Campbell, so well wishes to him. We're not sure of his status, but we hope him the best. But we, the four of us that were in attendance, we were able to come up with a mission, what we thought that the Parks Committee could do, and this again is a living draft. I don't think it's our first draft, but I think we're all happy with it. We all have the input of it, and I'll read it here. Our mission is to provide park improvement recommendations to promote gathering, collaboration, and unity within our community while considering the diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. At our next meeting, we will talk about, it seems like people are pretty eager to start talking about park improvements, like specific things. And then we're gonna talk about how we get the input from the community. So we're gonna share our own ideas and things that we've heard. And then we're gonna work towards, what's the best way to hear from others.
The app would be good for that too, for a survey.
Yeah,
We can
there's.
get it quick enough.
And so back in the fall, when we did the community conversation at the park, with that focus group, we did do a Google form, which is pretty easy for people to submit their ideas. And we got maybe 6 to 8 responses on the Google form, and I have shared that with the group. And so we're kind of considering doing a Google form again, opening that back up and just trying to get as much information as
Yeah,
possible.
what I meant was we could
To share it.
announce it. on-
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't say that right. Announce it on the app so people can get it done.
Assuming the
For
app
more
is,
people.
done in a timely
Assuming-
fashion, yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of looking to move forward soon. I think after our next meeting, we'll have a plan to do it. I mean, Facebook is fine too, to get people to participate.
Yeah.
The key is to, not just here, Facebook is not representative of our community. It's, a certain segment of our community, so it's, that's only one component of it. So those are things we're gonna discuss at our next meeting, which is scheduled for April 27th right now. And are you the beautification committee contact? Do you have an update on beautification committee?
I think that was just an idea you had expressed and just kind of stayed on our
Right,
agenda.
So is that an item that should be removed from the agenda?
I mean, it could be put in,
Could be tabled.
yeah,
Right,
I'll put, okay.
I think we kind of, okay.
but we do have a cleanup thing.
Yeah,
which
on
is
May
next on
19th,
the-
where some
Yeah.
of these people will probably come,
yeah.
right?
So that's mentioned in the next item as well.
That was
If you wanna-
discussed in We Thrive.
You're right, that's exactly, and
Beautification,
here we have for the We Thrive Planting and Cleanup Weekend for May 19th,
Mhm.
2023. Yeah.
And that's
Those
also-
together.
Yeah.
You want
Right.
to put those together? That would be a subtopic under the beautification.
beautification,
Okay,
And that is also the weekend of the yard sale.
Although there is no beautification committee, or this is a hypothetical.
Correct, there's no
it's like-
beautification committee.
This is where Silco's helping us.
Mhm. So bringing in volunteers.
okay, so I mean, the only update that I can give on that, I mean, it's a good update. So we have the tire dumpster is going to be here on May 17th. That's going to be coordinated with this community planting and cleanup weekend. I believe we are still pending to hear back from Silco whether they will be joining us and volunteering hours in the park and elsewhere to do all of that. Ms. Snyder, do you have more on that?
I do know that Mr. Hirth ordered the flowers that will be planted that day. And
Where do you order from?
from PRM.
Okay.
And everyone is invited once we have a firm time, and you will be rewarded with pizza for your efforts. And yes, and then we should also have another dumpster, like a general.
Yes, I believe there's another dumpster coming as well. I'm not
Yes.
scheduling that, so I
Yeah.
don't know that the details on that, but
Mhm.
I believe Mr. Hirth was dealing with that.
Yes.
Um,
And then that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be the community yard sale dates. So while you normally need to seek a permit to have a yard sale, this weekend you do not. I don't think many people know that they need to come to the administration first before having yard sale, but you in fact do.
So the sales on when, what day?
I believe is it the
May 19th.
May
It is
20th,
May
21st.
19th, so how are we gonna work and do the yard sale at the same time?
Well, I mean, people can hold their yard sales,
The whole
you know,
weekend
just the
anyone
whole
can do it.
weekend, like whenever they
Oh,
want to.
okay,
Like, I'm not gonna have one Friday morning. I'll be here planting, but
So
okay.
it looks like the cleanup is for
So
the
it's
19th.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Friday, when we had originally
Okay.
discussed a community yard sale idea, there was some concern about the Sabbath limiting the days of sales.
Oh,
So it was
Okay.
extended for the whole weekend.
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think we did it that way last year.
We did. Additionally, Mr. Hirth will be looking into buying signage, like larger, like community sale weekend signage to put on the T-posts that we have around the village. So hopefully, we'll have more shoppers and more sellers.
That's for the community yard sale, or that's for the planting?
I believe he's looking for both.
Okay,
But the community cleanup might just be yard signs. At least that was my recommendation, that those be yard signs put around and that the sale be on the larger ones.
What are those signs, the community cleanup signs, what are they promoting or what? I guess what's,
I think it's gonna be like the Pleasant Ridge Community Council, have you seen their cleanup signs? Yard signs, they basically just say, community cleanup brought to you by, Pleasant Ridge Community Council, this and this time, meet at this spot. So it'd be like, meet at the municipal building at this time, come help beautify Golf Manor.
Also for the yard sale, I think we waive the fees, don't we? Or do we do away with them
I
altogether?
don't, if there is a fee, isn't it only $1?
We might have waived it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no fee for this weekend, but I don't know
Yeah,
when you apply for
I
a
think we did
permit.
last year we waived it, you don't need a permit.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a fee associated
I
with the
just got a
permit or
text the other
not.
day, someone was asking how to do a garage sale, or I gave them the permit. It looks kind of older, but
Yeah.
it's still on
we
the
have,
internet.
we have a permit from 2018 that does not have a fee on it.
Okay,
Okay,
Google
But we don't
Golf
need the
Manor yard
permit.
sales, like the
Yeah,
third or
no
fourth
permits.
result.
Okay. I may have gotten a different one off of
Second.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that looks more updated, logo and everything.
Okay. So we have block communication strategy. I assume we're tabling that because we don't have anyone from the police department here today.
That was more my idea, I believe, but I think we
Oh.
can just table that. I think that was more my
Mhm.
understanding. But that kind of goes with the app. I mean, that was before the app was introduced. I think the app would kind of fill in some gaps of that. Certainly, again, the app's only going to be used by some residents, but I think it will be a little more broad than Facebook would. So I'm kind of interested in just tabling the block communication channel for now.
Okay, so this was your block head's
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I was, because the police department's doing something similar, that's why I was
Okay.
confused, I apologize. Okay.
So if we could just, probably take that up.
Yes. So do you wanna take that off of the agenda?
I think so. Is everyone
Okay,
else?
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
Mr.
For now,
okay.
we could always put it back on.
Yeah,
Once the
it's
app
more
is
of
up,
an
we see that we need it.
Mhm.
Maybe just to promote the app, everybody should take the street or two.
I'm putting a motion to remove from the agenda, from future agendas at this point by Mr. Bussey, second by anyone.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And we have the community survey up here. Obviously, we spoke about that. That will be,
Is there economic development, or would that be you, or just, okay?
yeah, he didn't send me anything for that. I can double check. Maybe he sent me something since we started. No.
Is there an education report, Ms. Cheney?
LSDMC meets tomorrow at PRM. And I haven't announced to them yet, the information I got from the president of CPS, so I guess, we did get responses back to two of our, requests. One was to, change the drop down when, new parents register their children. Right now, it just shows Pleasant Ridge Montessori. We're working on it, adding Woodford, Silverton, and JP Parker, so they have a choice. And CPS is probably okay with that as long as it doesn't affect transportation, because they have transportation issues. So Tammy Kaufman and I did talk to Danielle Gray, who's the principal of Woodford, and she's on board with this. She was a former Montessori teacher. She's also the LSDM chair at Woodford. They don't have one yet. And so, she's on board with us doing that. She thinks it's a great idea because not all children are Montessori able to do well.
And this is in response to the school growing and kind of becoming a little
Yes, the
crowded.
boundaries, yes.
And try to have a solution to not redistricting the boundaries, or is this in?
Okay, the ad hoc committee at CPS, and we've been attending those meetings, we didn't go last month, but they are supposed to have a report on boundary changes to the full board in June. So, and then the other question we had was, currently we have 2 reading specialists at PRM, which had been a great help for the getting the scores up and, helping the children, they learn better. So CPS has changed it so you can only have 1 math specialist and 1 reading specialist for next year. So we went to the board and requested that that PRM have 2 reading specialists because we have 350 more kids than other schools have. Well, I don't think that they're going to give that to us. They said, Ben Lindy said, it's because, Title I pays for the reading and math specialists, and it must be a grant, I don't know yet. The pays for most of it. And then the COVID funds were paying for the other, and they run out this year, so they won't be available next year. So we may just have to deal with 1 reading specialist, 1 math specialist. So that's all I know right now.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
Is that it for your report?
I think so for now. Mhm.
All right, on to nonprofit, Mr. Fisher. Nothing? Anyone else have anything else to add or say?
Okay.
All right,
You had announced the next meeting.
Yes, our next community engagement committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 16th at 9:30 a.m. And with that, I will set a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Okay.
And second, we are
All right.
Happy holidays, everyone.